Video. Today we're doing two college football player props here on PrizePicks for Saturday, October 14th. Before I get started, you guys, check out the link in the description below. Hop into our premium Discord at $9.30 per month. It's where I post all the plays I'm making on PrizePicks. We also have other premium cappers in there as well that post all of their plays, research, and analysis. Super positive community. Everyone in there just trying to help each other win. I got everyone in there posting their own slips, how they're feeling about certain plays and things like that. Last Saturday for college football, I gave 11 total props, and I did go 9-2 on the day here last Saturday at college football. So hopefully replicating that this Saturday. Again, this is just a screenshot of the plays that I did post in the premium Discord. So again, don't want to push the premium Discord on you guys too hard, but there is a link in the description for that. I also do need to mention I'm not a gambling expert, and this is not financial advice. These are simply plays I'm personally looking at making, hopefully giving you guys some insight and analysis to then make your own player prop decisions. Again, no one's pressing submit on those parlays other than yourselves. But let's get right into it, you guys. I got two player props here. Both these players are going to be quarterback plays here, as I've talked about before. Specifically for these videos as a whole, I'm targeting quarterbacks, college football, just a little bit safer, right? We're tired of betting on these wide receivers, specifically in college football, and then not getting targets or just game script completely ruining things. So I'm targeting quarterbacks, just the safest floor in my opinion. But yeah, let's get into this. So two plays. Let's not waste any time. Let's go. The first play is going to be Bo Nix, quarterback, Oregon, over 25.5 fantasy score here against Washington. I just looked at the the slate, and I had to get something in going in this game here. I think this game is going to be absolutely electric here. Honestly, it's debatable. I mean, I'm from the West Coast, and it's debatable that the Pac-12 is one of the most competitive conferences, or maybe the most competitive it's ever been. And definitely has the best quarterbacks in the entire country playing in the Pac-12. We look at Bo Nix. Right, he's over this line in 3 of his last 4 games, but has had a floor of 23 fantasy points in every single game this season, right? Which is, you do like a floor to be very high for a quarterback, specifically in this matchup. Taking a look at this matchup, I just needed, like I said, to get a part of this game here. A 67 over under, you guys. Washington is going to be 3-point favorites here, which in my opinion helps Bo Nix. I think this game is just going to be a back and forth absolute shootout. 67 over under here, though, without question, one of the highest over-unders of any game on the slate. Actually, if you take a look at the projections, it's actually the third highest over-under on the slate overall, and without question the highest of any Power 5 conference. You can see here, 67 over, -3 favorites for Washington. And it's just an absolute smash spot here for Bo Nix, just a little bit too low. We take a look at Michael Penix, the opposing quarterback. He's set at 27.5. Right, so Penix is 2 fantasy points higher than Bo Nix, and Bo Nix has a floor of 23, which is why I'm taking Bo Nix here in this spot. So we take a look here, right? Michael Penix and Bo Nix add luster to Washington versus Oregon with rivalry set for greatest showcase yet. The 2-star quarterbacks and Heisman Trophy favorites will be front and center as the oft-overlooked rivalry gets the deserved spotlight, you guys. It's going to be on national television, all right? National television, Michael Penix, we know how explosive the Washington offense is. We know how explosive the Oregon offense is. Take a look at Bo Nix. Like I said, this season has had a floor of at least 23 fantasy points all season long, right? 23.5, 27, 23, 28.9, and 29.4. Okay, we go back to last season, right? Bo Nix first year in Oregon. Look how many times Bo Nix cleared this line last season. He only missed this line in 4 games last season, 1 being a bowl game here, but 8.6, 14.2, 15.8, and 20.6 are his 4 misses. And in that game against Washington just last year, 30.7 fantasy points, had 279s in the air, 2 touchdowns, along with 10 carries for 55 rush yards and a touchdown as well. We look at that matchup, like I said, absolute shootout, 37-34, which actually that game got off to a pretty slow start. The second half, we saw 24 point scoring from both sides. So definitely think this game's going to get off to a little bit of a better foot. Both these teams last year, both these quarterbacks, it was a little bit later in the year, as well as both these quarterbacks were in their first year with the program. Second year with the program, I definitely think we're going to see a ton of explosive offense on both sides. We take a look over on Outlier. Again, you guys, there's a link in the description below. You get a 7-day free trial with Outlier. It is a research tool that I use every single day for my sports bets. You can see here, Bo Nix, over 1.5 passing touchdowns. He's at -330 on FanDuel, you guys, to go over 1.5 passing touchdowns, right? So you can see here, Bo Nix, he's over 1.5 passing touchdowns in 9 of his last 10 games, obviously. But we take a look at Bo Nix, right, and we go to how he performed last season, right? Well, okay, first off, this season, right, he's had at least 2 passing touchdowns in every single game, right? Lowest fantasy score game came against at Hawaii, which was a complete blowout. 23.3 fantasy, 247 in the air, and 3 rushing touchdowns. He only had 14 rushing yards in that game. But go back to last season, we take a look at how many times Bo Nix cleared at least 2 touchdowns, and he only missed this line in 2 games, 20.6 against Oregon State and 15.8 against UNC. So again, if Bo Nix can get 2 passing touchdowns, that's a great floor here and a great start, at least here for Bo Nix to get 25.5 fantasy points. But I definitely think with the pace that Oregon plays at, with the pace that Washington plays at, with the ability for Michael Penix to move the ball down the field, I just think there's going to be a ton of possessions for both sides of the ball. And at 25.5 for Bo Nix, if it doesn't hit, it's just one of those plays where I'm locking this in. Absolutely elite game environment, 2 Heisman Trophy finalists, 67 over under. And if this play doesn't hit here, it's for some reasons other than just the game is a complete blowout one way or another, which I don't seem to be the case. And it's just one of those ones where you live with the results, right? We take a look at the quarterback for Arizona, who just the other week played pretty well against Washington, right? You can see here Washington versus Arizona was somewhat of a shootout, right? 31-24 in Arizona. And the quarterback, Noah Fifita, who was actually like the backup quarterback, he finished with specifically 22.2 fantasy points, right? So Washington defense is beatable, right? We just saw Noah Fifita, who also finished with 32.3 fantasy against USC, finished with 22.2 fantasy against Washington at home. He threw for 232 in the air and 3 passing touchdowns, and also did throw an interception. So if a quarterback like him, a backup quarterback in Arizona, can get 22, I definitely like my chances here of Bo Nix in an absolute national televised game. Both these teams, both these players are going to come out and show for this one. I like Bo Nix over 25.5 fantasy as the first play. The second play here is going to be another fantasy score. It's from a little bit of a later game. It's going to be Will Howard, quarterback for Kansas State. I like his over of 22.5. So I know the last 5 bettors are going to like this one. He's over this in 5 of his last 5 games here. You can see here 25, 27, 23, 36, and 33.18 fantasy score for Will Howard this season. We take a look at Will Howard. Last week, I think he played Thursday or maybe it was Friday. He threw 3 interceptions last week and still finished with 23.5 fantasy against Oklahoma State on the road. 23.5 fantasy. He still would have cleared this line with 3 interceptions. Ran for 104 on the ground with a rushing touchdown. Has really been running the ball well this season. I think he's got 6 total rushing touchdowns on the year. We take a look at this matchup. Strong game environment here. This game is a PM game here. Texas Tech versus Kansas State. On the road in Texas Tech, 58 over under 1.5 point spread, right? Which we do love to see here. Any over under, in my opinion, at the college level, over 56 with a 1.5 point spread or honestly a 3 point spread or less. Just an absolute great game environment, right? In Texas Tech, their defense is just not strong at all. We look at Texas Tech on the season in the Big 12, the most rushing yards to the quarterback position, which really, really helps Will Howard in this spot, obviously with his rushing ability and how well he's ran the ball this season, right? Fantasy points per game to the quarterback position, Texas Tech 5th most at 23.5 fantasy points per game, as well as the 4th most total fantasy points to the quarterback position, right? They've also allowed quite a bit of offense through the air, 1,442 passing yards, as well as 10 passing touchdowns, you guys. Texas Tech, it seems like they've been in a shootout every single week. And we take a look at Will Howard, some of these odds here, over 1.5 passing touchdowns, minus 157 here over on Caesars, you guys. Minus 157 on Caesars. He's also minus 135 under 0.5 interceptions, which obviously helps this play as well. And then we take a look at some other opposing quarterbacks, right, who, again, so as far as the teams that they played so far, Will Howard is definitely the most talented quarterback, I think, that Texas Tech has faced. We take a look at Andrew Peasley, quarterback for Wyoming, right, versus Texas Tech, 26.8 fantasy. He had 149 in the air, 2 touchdowns, and also ran for 68 yards and a touchdown. We look at Donovan Smith, quarterback for Houston, went absolutely crazy versus Texas Tech, 35.3 fantasy, 335 in the air, 4 rushing touchdowns, also ran for 335 in the air, 4 passing touchdowns, also ran for 59 yards. We look at the quarterback for West Virginia, Nico Marchiol, right? Texas Tech had 12.3 fantasy, right? But what's key here, he only threw for 78 yards in the air, 1 passing touchdown. Again, this is the backup quarterback for West Virginia, but he ran for 72 yards on the ground, which obviously helps, the quarterback position rack up those fantasy points really quickly here. So it's a great spot for Will Howard. I think 22.5, just a little bit too low considering he's cleared this in all 4 games this season, even dating back to last year. Had a pretty great hit rate with this one, cleared in 3 straight games dating back to last year. So these are the 2 plays here for this YouTube video. This video is going to go live Friday. Should give you ample time if you do like these plays to get them in yourself. Again, check out all the links in the description below, you guys. I think both these spot players in great game environments against some defenses that can give up points pretty quickly. Drop a like on this video, you guys. Hit that subscribe button. And as always, let's cash.